Hello and welcome back to EVE Online with me, Mark from Dadex, and this is just a quick news video, I suppose, in a sense, because a system has fallen to the Triglavians and there are quite big ramifications for some people. Niarja is the system, and if we have a look at the information, you can see that although it's still listed as a 0.5 security status system, it has now been modified to -0.7, making it technically nullsec. Although you can't Cyno in there, you can't use bubbles in there, you can't use capital ships in there. So in effect it's low sec, only with lower security status penalties for aggressing, I guess. But why does this matter? It's not the first system that's been flipped by the Triglavian invasion. So let's have a look. Now as you can see here, I've flipped to an alt that's permanently docked in jitter. It's 9 jumps to a Mar, but that includes the system that's been flipped. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to make some adjustments to my settings to specifically avoid that system, and let's see what effect that has on the journey. Messing about here a little bit, I've got to add that to the list now. There you go. We have gone from 9 jumps to 45 jumps, which obviously is a much longer journey. Now in a sense that's only time. You could look at it at that. It's only going to take what, less than a minute, well under a minute a system to do a jump on average. So it's only going to take you longer to get your stuff between Amar and Jitter. And the issue is that if you're coming into high sec from null sec in the area of Amar and you want to get to Jitter, this is obviously the main route to do it. So the null sec alliances that only have real access to high sec from over there are the ones that are going to have the biggest day-to-day issue with this, as are smaller traders that have been reliant on the same route. Now I've got a plan here. This is based on the London Underground plan. I love this. Whoever made this, I love you and thank you for making it. I don't know who to credit, because it was stolen from Reddit and put on Facebook, and I stole it from Facebook. But just as with the London Underground, this is an amazingly clear way of showing something quite complex. So there's Amar, and there's Jitter, and there's the 9 jump route. So there's Niarja that's been closed. So the solution is to fly all the way around here, and all of the systems marked in red a 0.6, 0.5 security status, so they're quite good for ganking in. Maybe Wrens or Heck over here will get a bit of a renaissance, or even Dodixie as a trading hub, as kind of a halfway point. But it's all of these gankable systems, quite high risk. And these systems up here, that's not far from where I hang out. They're always a bit of a nasty place to get through sometimes anyway. So it's not just the additional time, it is all of these additional points where ganking can be quite easy. I live up here in this kind of area. I use Dodixie, so I directly don't get affected by this. Certainly not in terms of moving stuff. What it's going to do to the market in terms of variation, prices going up, we can only see. From the way I play the game, the only issue there is that that'll be balanced out by maybe what I sell is going to be worth more. So there's no real direct impact of this on me or people that play like me. But if you do need to get around this kind of a route and get across the map, and you need to get to Jitter, you're going to have to think of something else. And while I remember, I have posted this map onto our Discord. That's linked down below. But anyway, what are the options then if you've got to get around here? Maybe some enterprising corporations or alliances will set up some hubs. And although Jitter's always been the biggest trade hub, I certainly remember the time 10 years ago when it wasn't such the biggest. Dodixie was much more active than it is now, and Mar was much more active than it is now, and Heck and Wrens were much more active than they are now. So maybe it'll just redress that balance. The game slowly and relentlessly and unstoppably gravitated towards Jitter over the time I've been playing the game, and this might just jiggle that around a little bit, and maybe that wouldn't be too bad anyway in the longer term. Every change in this game has a negative and a positive, and when it impacts you the most and most directly, then it is a right pain. I know people who've got all of their level 4 mission running battleships locked in a station in that system. Eggs in one basket comes to mind. But you know, I understand that the impact can be huge. What I'm doing here in my Nereus is practicing the micro drive and cloak trick. I think it's going to become increasingly useful. If you're not familiar, I shall talk you through it briefly. This is basically about making it as hard as possible to lock you. So we're not too worried about the tank, the amount of EHP we've got or anything like that. This is about this little trick. So we're going to align to where we want to go. We hit the micro warp drive, we turn it straight off and turn the cloak straight on. See how quickly we cloaked then recloaked? As soon as the micro warp drive finishes its cycle, you turn off the cloak and you warp. And there you go, we're actually decloaking and we're in warp at the same time. That should leave the absolute minimum amount of time for anyone to lock you at a gate. We are going to do some experiments with tackle ships and different fits, whether it be an exploration frigate that can carry quite a lot of cargo very quickly. The Synesis might be another option, although it's quite expensive for what it is, but that's always been, well, mainly useful. I say the only use for a Synesis is really as a fast, hard to tackle hauler, I would say. We'll look at that ship one day and see if I can actually have some fun in it somehow. But just to look at this fit briefly, the other thing, apart from the improved cloak, and you need that because it has the reduced speed penalty, so that's the cloak you want. The Cyno we'll talk about another day. I've got the restrained shield extenders and the restrained micro warp drive to minimise the signature radius bloom from running those modules. Down in the bottom, ideally, I should really have 3 nanofiber internal structures and 1 inertia stabilizer. The difference is the internal structure, it takes hit points off your hull, but makes your align time quicker. The inertial stabilizer makes your align time quicker, but it increases your signature radius, which is a little bit counterproductive. So I think ideally, I'd have 3 of the nanofiber internal structures and 1 inertia stabilizer. But I do vary this fit, obviously, depending on how much cargo capacity I need. I also have some ECM drones in there just in case of emergencies. They're not going to help much at a gate camp, but you never know. And that can be applied to any of the race's fast haulers, although I prefer the Niarja for its EHP and its capacity. So there's one way you might want to deal with it. Another way, especially if you've got the resources, is to use Cynos to make your own shortcut. And the only one's got the resources to scout out low-sec systems to use as staging posts, it's the null-sec alliances, isn't it? I'm in a Viator right here, one of the Galante Tech 2 blockade runner haulers. I'm warping up to my fleet mate, Yetfar, #1 son. We've also got another alt in the destination system in a Pilgrim ready to pop a Kovo Ops Cyno. Anyway, yeah, so this is the kind of thing that if you've got the resources, you can cut the journey time, you can cut the risks. It can be done. Trade will find a way. If anything in the universe motivates mankind to innovate, it's conflict and profit, and we've got both on the table at the moment. So there's Yetfar in his Sin, his Black Ops battleship. So now the other alt is going to pop the Covert Ops Cyno. The Sin then establishes a Covert Ops Cyno bridge over to there, and because the Viator can use a Covert Ops Cloak, it can use the bridge to get to where the Cyno was popped. And the Sin does not have to come through. So there you go. There's the jump bridge. I activate it. And kapow. I've gone 13 jumps. Quick as a flash. And I'm now over here. And the Sin stays where he is. And as long as you've got the resources to set this kind of thing up, there's the Pilgrim up there with the beautiful Cyno. So I think my point is, it's a bit of a jolt to the system if it's really messed you up personally. And I can feel you, but it happens to us all. I've had a funny old year, I can tell you. But it's all part of the fun of Eve. We'll look at the pretty Cyno as I try to get the perfect screenshot, because that's a never-ending quest in itself. But even is believing, guys, and everything will be okay. Things will settle down. It may make the game adjust itself in a way that might make it nicely different. Who knows? The actual status of Niarja is that you can go in there. It's a conflict zone. Anyone can aggress you. There's no penalty for aggressing you. The Triglavians in there are very aggressive. I'm going to go and have a look. And I shall bring you some footage of what exactly I find in there. So take care. Leave us a like if you've liked it or this has been useful or interesting. Comment. Leave me a fit and an application for a Synesis that it can do better than a Tech 1 destroyer. Please, and I'll use it in a video. But for now, guys, take care of yourselves and each other. Fly brave and goodbye.